Cammy is getting nerfed in TEPPEN, and trust me when I tell you that it is a good thing, because there is a deck that utilizes Cammy in a really busted, annoying, and incredibly efficient way. Whatever you want to call it, I'm going to call it Turbo Cammy. And now that we know that the deck will not function coming up in August, I feel comfortable showing it to you because this deck is really, really stupid. So let's get into it. This deck is a Wesker deck. It uses Ouroboros, which is 22 AP to revive the most expensive unit in your graveyard and put it back on the field. Now, to be perfectly honest, you don't entirely need Ouroboros to make this deck work. If there's another hero art you prefer, that's fine, as long as it fits into the green and black realm, because these are the essential cards that you need in order to make it work. This is the Cammy card we've been talking about. It's been subject matter in several of my most recent videos, so I don't have to explain this to you in detail, but one thing that I do want to point out is the big difference that's going to be happening going forward is that the effect for extra stats here, that is going to be a when played effect, which means that in order for you to get those stats, you have to actually play Cammy from your hand or your EX pocket. Pulling it from the graveyard is not going to trigger those bonus stats, so this deck won't be nearly as efficient. But as you can see, the entirety of this deck is Cammy. It is the only unit in this deck, but it is built to create copies and to get them out quickly and efficiently. So let's talk about a few of those key pieces. Bombast is the best way to search for Cammy. It not only finds Cammy, it puts it in your EX pocket because it's the only unit, but it brings it down to a 3 cost, which is really, really good. So you want to run 3 of these. You also have other cards that search. Allies Consolation can potentially pull Cammy, but it can also just pull any other card from your deck and build up memory, so that's why it's efficient for us. Those are going to be the main ways that you are going to be able to fish for Cammy if it's not in your opening hand. And ideally, you don't even want to cycle for Cammy in the beginning, because pulling it for Bombast is just way better. Leap is here because it's cheap. It gives Cammy anti-air, even though she's going to already have it. If you'd rather run Sibling Memories here, if you find yourself getting too low on life, go ahead and do that. Exploding Lightning Rod is a great way to take care of pesky, annoying flyers, namely Astalos right now, but I do think Flight is going to have a presence in the upcoming meta, so this card is good anyway. And then Raging Dust Cloud to shield yourself, free way to build up memory. So A-Trans will allow you to copy the cards in your EX pocket and then return them to the top of the deck in a random order. So if you fish for a cheaper Cammy and it goes to your EX pocket, you use A-Trans, you're going to have another Cammy at your disposal. So let's also talk a little bit about ways that you can create extra copies of Cammy, and that is going to be done with Possessing Malice. This card's been around for a while. It's a core card. What it does is it destroys a unit, then returns it to the same board slot. Now you're going to take damage for this, and it doesn't arrive if the board slot is filled, but more often than not, this is going to work. Now you generally want to save this on reaction. You don't want to just use it, because then it's way too obvious, telegraphing to your opponent what it is that you're trying to do. So some of the other things we have in here, we have Rebirth, which is going to fish a weaker Cammy from your graveyard, but because it's going to be getting all these bonus stats up until it gets nerfed, keep that in mind, that will be really, really efficient for you. Evasive Action is there to reset the stats, and then we also have a Beautiful Romance, which if you end up with a Cammy in your hand or EX pocket, this can reduce its cost as well and give it bonus HP, which is really, really good. The last thing that I want to talk about here are 2 instances of Seeds of Righteousness. So this, just at its standard without the memory, it's not very good. It just gives +1/+2. But if you have memory 7, the unit also gains, when it dies, place this unit in the previously occupied board slot, but if it's occupied, it won't happen. So this is essentially kind of like Gold Orb, specifically for Cammy, but you do get bonus stats out of it. So that is what we are looking at in terms of Turbo Cammy. Here's the QR code if you want to take this for a spin, but keep in mind, this deck is not going to be nearly as good when the balance changes roll out in August, and that's a good thing. Let's take a look at the replays. Yes, make note, this is up against Rakoha. This is up against Rakoha, which is one of the more effective decks in the meta. So we swap because we want to have a way to pull Cammy. Now, unfortunately, we don't really get that here. We did not draw into Bombast or Cammy, but that's okay. We've got cards we can cycle. Raging Dust Cloud is perfect for that, and we end up drawing into Bombast. And because he gave us free MP for active response, we're totally going to use it. Now, he's playing all these actions, the Foresight, the new generation Reploids, which isn't going to do anything for him, but he's just building up memory. And you know why this is happening. He's building up memory because he wants to be able to have the most effective Rakoha. So now we have a cheaper Cammy. We've got a 3-cost Cammy. And because we have A-Trans, we're going to go ahead and use it. Now, he's going to cancel that out with a negate. And in all honesty, it's smart, but that's fine because we play Beautiful right here. And that is going to give Cammy extra HP, and it's going to drop her cost to 2, which is fantastic. So now, because there's no threats on the board and they're mostly even, at least in terms of the AP spent, we're just going to wait until we build up all the way so we can drop this Cammy and we can get some momentum going. So we drop the Cammy and she's a fat 7-12. Remember how I said it's a good thing this deck's getting nerfed? We basically did nothing to get that unit. So it's kind of insane. So he's sitting on max MP. I'm expecting Brainwash here. So I use Raging Dust Cloud because I'm fishing. I want to see what he's going to do. Now he drops the Rook, and so then I realize there's chess pieces here. And again, I'm waiting for the Brainwash. So I'm going to fish for it with these little bitty cheap actions that we're just using to kind of cycle cards. So out comes a Splendid Buffet to drain some HP from this Cammy. That is not enough of a threat for me to necessarily feel the need to use Malice. So instead, we're just going to pay 1. We're going to get rid of this other Leap, and he has another Splendid. So that's 2, and this is going to drop him down to 3 MP. But even so, even with the card in his EX pocket and getting close to Rakoha, it's not necessarily enough of a reason to Possessing on response. So again, we're waiting, and we're going to use Possessing here before the Rakoha comes out and gets rid of Cammy. Now he's going to negate it. That's 2 negates, but we play the second Possessing, which we drew into, and he is probably not going to be able to counter this. So we are going to get another copy of Cammy, which is what this deck strives to do. So the original Cammy goes away. We get another 7-10 Cammy, which is out of range of him being able to Rakoha it. But he does have his 3rd Splendid Buffet. But Doll's Memories, we have 7, so now we can give this Cammy +4/+4 and essentially cancel out that damage. He's going to give himself Exposed Evil Eye for the extra MP, again padding out his memory, which is smart. He kind of needs to do that because we're about to have a monster of a board, because even though we've got an 11-11 Cammy staring him in the face, we are super close to Ouroboros. And he is now using Loss of Meaning again, and this is the perfect opportunity to use Seeds of Righteousness. He's already burned through several of his negates, and more often than not, he is not going to have another answer for it. Maverick's Memories was a factor, but he did not have it. So now this Cammy, when she eventually dies, she's just going to come back. And we've got Ouroboros, so why not? Let's put another monster on the board, another fat 7-10. He uses Rakoha because he has to, but it's not really going to do him a whole lot of good. And that middle Cammy there, rather, is on live support, but it doesn't matter. Did you see how fast that ended? Jesus. Whenever you see this, you could think that it's potentially a mirror. But if I remember correctly, this one was not a mirror. But, you know, Ouroboros has the potential to be a lot of different things. There's a lot of different decks that work with it, so it's kind of hard to telegraph exactly what you're going to be up against just based on the hero art. So starting hand is great. We start with Bombast. We don't have to worry about it being negated because it's just Wesker. And so Death's Executioner tells me that this is going to be the self-mill variant of the deck, which can be scary because that deck can come online really, really fast. But so can ours. We just have to be faster. Another Death's Executioner as we attempt to use A-Trans and make another copy of this Cammy, which is exactly what we want to do. And we're going to end on the Raging Dust Cloud here because we want to build up a little bit of our memory for when it eventually does come into play, because we do have the Doll's Memories in our hand as well. Again, more of the self-mill technology here. Cursed Choice coming out. We're not really in a position to do anything. We could use a Leap on response to give anti-air, but instead I opt to search for the EX pocket with the extra, and he goes with False Throne. Probably really wasn't necessary in that situation, to be perfectly honest, but it does pad out our memory a little bit, and we have 2 Cammy at this point. Certainly going to be looking to play the cheaper one because we want to have the Possessing Malice options. Basically, we want to have choices for when that Cammy hits the field and he attempts to do, you know, his crazy stuff. So Black Crown's Madness comes out. Again, more self-mill technology to thin out his deck to the point you'll notice he only has 7 cards remaining in deck. So we play 1 Cammy and it instantly gets my Genie. Which it can happen with this deck with that instant destruction whenever he gets below that 10 card threshold. So we drop our other Cammy here, and unfortunately we don't get Seeds out because he just my Genies again. He just straight up uses my Genie again. Now, even though that is discouraging, by no means are we out of this fight just yet. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to build up as much of our AP as we can because Ouroboros is going to be our saving grace, because most decks here, at least in the self-mill variant, are not going to run 3 Majini. That's just, it's inefficient, it's unsafe. 2 is the good number. So what we want to do is we want to cycle enough cards to the point where we can get to that Ouroboros. That's what we want to do. So even though, you know, the Lightning Rod's not going to do anything, we're playing it anyway because we want to get to that point. We're only 2 AP away, and my Genies, while annoying, they're not swinging for a lot. They're only 3/8. So they're not really going to be doing a whole lot for us at the end of the day, and we draw into Rebirth, which is great. Now he's going to Rebirth too, but that's not nearly as scary for him, even though it is a raw Devil Joe. We got a 7/10 out of that, and that puts us in Ouroboros range. So here we go. Double Cammy coming out. This one's an 8/11, and within an instant, our board is way scarier than his. Sigma comes down, it just gets absolutely obliterated. He's got another Ouroboros, but is it really going to be able to save him? Not really, because we have the technology. Seeds of Righteousness going down on that Cammy to give it the ability to come back when it dies, because it is going to trade with this Devil Joe, even with this buff, which is what we want. He realizes he can't really do anything about it. So the Cammy comes out, Cammy pops, Cammy is back. And what do you do when you're staring down 2 Cammys? He Genies one more time, but it does not matter. That's the power of Turbo Cammy, and that is the reason that it is getting adjusted with that when played effect, so you can't exactly cycle Cammy in the same way. I do believe there's a way that you could still sort of build a deck around Cammy, but it's going to be really expensive, it's not going to be nearly as fast, and it just won't be able to hold up to some of the other better decks in the meta. So with balance changes coming out, let me know what you want me to experiment with coming up in the future. The comments are the best place to let me know. I love going in there and responding to you guys. And if my TEPPEN content tickles your fancy, subscribe to let me know that you want more of it. I love you guys. I say it every time, but wear your mask, and I'll see you next time.